on console, you are a lucky person.
Yep.
Experiencing the
Yeah. When I grew up playing games, it was Halo on this thing right here. A bunch of LAN parties on Halo. Going to my friend's house. A lot of Call of Duty, a lot of Super Smash Brothers, DDR, Guitar Hero, and a bunch of other games.
growth of things like Xbox Live and even PlayStation Online was an extremely special time, and honestly something that if you missed out on, cannot really be replicated.
No,
While you'll still
can't.
find plenty of clips from that time of people harassing each other in a COD pregame lobby or
Yep.
whatever other various game chats, there was also a whole other side of gaming where people literally just made friends in game chat.
Yo, how's everybody doing today? Doing pretty goddamn good. Yourself?
Almost everyone at that time used their crappy
That's like the one lonely. That's the one lobby where he managed to find two people like being nice to each other that are the opposite team.
free Xbox headset, and it made online games feel, well, alive. Compare
Yeah.
this to today, where between party chats, discords, and people who don't even bother to plug in their mic, online gaming has become a surprisingly lonely experience.
Oh yeah. Well, one facet of that is that back in the day, there like being an influencer wasn't really a thing. There wasn't a lot of money to be made. To be like, when you trying to become like a YouTuber or like somebody that's really good at games or whatever, that just didn't exist in that time period. It was, at least for me, it was like I had my friends around in my neighborhood, and maybe in school, you had your school friends, your neighborhood friends, and that was your circle. Now it's like if you say like friend circle, at any given time, you could have friends that are like across the world. All right, which is nice because all this like modern technology allows you to reach out and like connect with people like that. But in other ways, it's like it's very isolating.
For example, take any multiplayer game today. You can take a pick whatever your fancy is, launch it up and do a little test. Most likely you're going to end up with a ton of lobbies that have nobody talking in them,
Yep.
or at best maybe one or two other people. Sure, there are exceptions to this, as some games have retained slightly more life in them than others, but for the most part, multiplayer gaming can almost be a single player experience in
Yep.
modern games. Sure, you are technically playing against real people, but without that level of social interaction, is it really much different than facing an advanced bot? Obviously, there
Not
is
really.
someone on the other side of that death screen or kill cam. However, at the end of the day, how much of a difference does that really make to you, the player? This gets even muddier, as some games will even fill up lobbies using bots disguised as real players.
Oh god.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Yep. And fair enough, he used Fortnite for that because yeah, there's a huge skill gap in Fortnite, unless you were playing since day one or whatever, or all you do is just grind the game to try to get better. It's like the bell curve for that game is like it's insane.
There are many, many, many things that have gotten better about multiplayer gaming in recent years, but this is purely talking about how it feels, as in many cases, online gaming has become a much more secluded experience. While online gaming had existed for many years prior, the rise of Xbox Live is when it felt like multiplayer gaming was really starting to hit the mainstream instead of being more geared toward that hardcore audience. Xbox Live was first made available on November 15th of 2002,
Dang.
but it was really when Halo 2 dropped in 2004 that seemed to take Xbox Live to that next level, and it only grew bigger and more powerful as the next generation of consoles would roll out. By this point, it was fairly easy to play multiplayer games on your Xbox.
The 360.
Just plug in an Ethernet cord or go buy one of those handy dandy Wi-Fi adapters, purchase Xbox Live or use a free trial, and hop onto one of the many games that supported multiplayer, equipped with that free microphone that you had
Yep.
provided to you by Microsoft.
Yep, it's free. Just take it. Go online and just talk. Start talking. You know? No, nowadays it's like, oh, I need a fucking big fancy mic. I need a big fancy cam. I need lights in my background. I need lights in my foreground. I need lights all around me. I need lights on my fucking dick. I need lights up my ass. I gotta look good. I gotta do my hair. I gotta do my makeup. I gotta look good. Oh, fuck this.
Now let's be honest, that mic and just general voice chat quality was absolute cheeks back then. But the experience of having a full lobby of people yelling into their mic feels like an experience that almost never happens anymore.
Bro, that's just straight annoying, whatever he's doing.
Dude, that was, did I hit those notes? I feel like I hit those notes pretty well.
Even
Bro, that's essentially any like Valorant lobby.
things like proximity chat in the new Warzone seem to be getting used less and less as people realize it gives away your presence. It wasn't uncommon during these times to make new online friends just by hopping into whatever your game of choice was at the time.
You know, as your agent, I really appreciate you connecting with your fans on Xbox Live.
Xbox Live Gold has a great community of gamers. That's how I met Dolores.
Shut your pie hole, pretty boy. Let's dance.
And to help you out with this came the fully fleshed out Xbox Live UI that included things like text and voice messages and a friends list that was only a short couple clicks away. One factor that made these games feel so much more lively back then on console was that there was no Discord or party chat at the time.
Nope.
You had two choices.
Yeah, like Xbox Live Party Chat was essentially you and your boys in like a tree house. You know, we're in like a group. All right, that's what it felt like, and to some degree, you know, Discord kind of feels like that, but it, you know, it is, but it isn't. You know, yes, it's all public or whatever, and anyone can jump in at any time, but like, it was just different with Xbox Live Party Chat.
Use game chat or one-on-one private chat.
Yeah.
So most people, especially if they were playing with more than one friend, would end up just hanging out in game chat and talking about the game or literally whatever else they were having conversations about.
Yeah.
I have so many memories of just having those random conversations with people that I may have never talked to or played with again. But it was those random conversations that you would kind of stumble into that would turn into friends you would play with on a regular basis. While don't get me wrong, there was definitely some toxicity that went on in these game chats, for the most part it was just a bunch of people trying to play a game they enjoyed and maybe shoot the shit while playing. Today these experiences are so few and far between because even if people happen to be using game chat, which is a rarity, it's usually restricted to just the game itself. Callouts for enemies, bitching you died, etc, etc.
Yeah, there's way more variables that come into play now. Like if he's been showing a lot of FPSs, which is like mostly multiplayer type stuff. Yeah, you know, there's things like skill-based matchmaking, which is like a huge thing. And even if your game doesn't have, you know, SBMM or whatever other flavor of it, it's essentially the same thing. And you know, the higher, like the more skill you get, the more toxic the players get, essentially. And that's across all games. That isn't exclusive to one or the other.
Microphone etiquette was also something that wasn't so common during those times.
And still is not, really. I mean, it kind of is, depending on, you know, who you hang around with. But, like, if you just go into, like, a public, like, I don't know, lobby or whatever, it's like, isn't it like most games, if there's, like, a lobby and you have, like, a bunch of people, like right there, like, isn't the lobby chat, like, turned off or whatever? I feel like that's what it is, because if they just turn that shit on, it's like people just yelling and cursing at each other, like spouting slurs and shit. That's all it would ever be.
So you'd run into hilarious situations where someone would be getting yelled at in the background of a room, or maybe just having a conversation with their buddy. During this time too, you definitely had sweating and tryharding that existed, but at the same time, games felt much more casual, since systems like matchmaking or SBMM were in a much more primitive state. So in many cases, the people playing these games felt much more like communities than they do today. This sort of community still persists today, in my opinion, in some PC games, especially games that still utilize a server browser For example, if you ever hop onto an older Battlefield, or maybe even something like Day of Defeat, and pick a server, you'll end up in this weird experience where it feels like you've hopped back in time, and you'll just end up playing with people that are just playing the game and having conversations, much more similar to that earlier era than today's games, which are increasingly silent and punishing. This quote-unquote era of gaming all ended in 2008, and this was when the big patch hit where Microsoft introduced the feature Party Chat. While Party Chat style systems like TeamSpeak or Ventrilo already had existed on PC for quite some time, this was the first time that players on console no longer had to communicate in game chat and could just sit in a party chat with two of their buddies while playing.
Oh yeah, that I would say, at least for the console era, that would be a big bullet point. You know, you don't even have to be in the game chat anymore. Now you can isolate yourself from the game chat and just talk with you and your boys. You know, you 4-stack or 5-stack or whatever game, and you just do call outs in game. You know, you don't have to worry about anything external or whatever. You know, I think in Call of Duty, like the older ones or whatever, it was like, if you killed someone, you could hear what they had to say for like 2 seconds or something. I don't remember. I think that was a thing. But like, no, you didn't even have to hear that anymore.
However, the console experience was still very different than that of PC. While on PC, one can sit on a TeamSpeak or now a Discord and set up push-to-talk buttons for the different voice communications, when you were on console, it was all or nothing. You either sat in game chat or you sat in party chat. There wasn't the combination of the two. So because of this, as people migrated toward those party chats, game chat became an absolute ghost town on consoles. The days of just meeting people by playing games became more and more rare. And this has only gotten worse as time has gone on, as it seems like more and more players these days are content just chilling in a Discord or on a party chat over using the in-game chat. These days, outside of using a third party looking for group service or joining a bunch of different Discords, it's honestly pretty rare to really meet new people by playing games. And while don't get me wrong, those services are very nice, nothing will ever beat those times of just launching up a game and chatting with a whole lobby of random people about literally anything while playing the game.
Okay, we got Paintballer and Kitty on the same team. This is not gonna. This is oil and water, bro. Oil and fucking water, dude. Oh, you love each other. I love him. Oh, do you? Yes. But does he love you? Yes. Hey, Paintballer, do you love Kitty? I don't know. Hey, fuck you. I love you.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
All these guys are like either in middle school or high school or whatever, just chilling, playing Halo, and that's all it ever was. You know? Yeah, this is like really rare, and would act like if any game were to actually release something like this, have like a lobby chat like this, it would be, I think, I don't know, maybe it'd be just vastly different.
The feeling of camaraderie while playing games has also been hurt by the introduction of stricter and stricter skill-based matchmaking.
Yeah.
Now this isn't a...
Yep, skill-based matchmaking. If you have any skill in any game, you don't want to touch shoulders, you don't want to breathe one way, you don't want to even glance at anybody lesser than you. All right? You only want to play with people on your level or above. That's it. That's your goal. And that's what it's like for, I would say, most games, you know? If you suck, I don't want to play with you. That's the mentality. You know, depending on, you know, if it's like pubs or ranked mode or whatever, or you're just chilling. Yeah. That's the era.
A video about skill-based matchmaking, and maybe I'll do a whole separate one, but skill-based matchmaking definitely has its pros and its cons. However, the con that I want to focus on in this video,
it's easy. Skill-based matchmaking, good for ranked, bad for everything else,
is that it's going to make every game you play feel fairly quote-unquote sweaty regardless of your skill level. And this is due to the fact that it's trying to match you up with people that are of equivalent skill to you, so you're usually always going to be challenged. This is very much at a detriment to that old feeling of sort of just chilling in a COD lobby and shooting the shit while maybe trying to get your KD up. You'd have people of all sorts of...
Well, because nobody is, I don't know, I would say nobody is really trying to do that, you know, unless you're like a dad or something and you just came home from work, you know, you got your 5 kids, your 1 wife, you know, you just came home, you want to boot up Call of Duty and you just want to shoot the shit with the boys that you've been friends with since high school. Be like, oh, Tony, what's up, man? You want to jump on COD? Sure, let's go. And then all of a sudden, oh, you get a good match? Oh, nice. You did good one match. Next match. Oh, we didn't do so good. Next match. You got shit on again. Next match. You got shit on again. Oh, the little skill-based matchmaking thing kicked in and it realized you lost 3 in a row, which means you're probably going to get off. Let's put you in an easier lobby to hopefully, you know, make it so that you have a little bit more easy time getting the kills, and then you get that win again, and then it puts you in the harder lobby, and then it just rinse and repeats the cycle.
Skills that were in the same lobby, whereas now a low SBMM lobby is going to be so wildly different from a high SBMM lobby that they are pretty much unrecognizable to each other.
Yeah.
When you think about
It's 2 different games, essentially.
even something as simple as sending and accepting invites to and from...
And again, skill-based matchmaking, again, I'll reiterate, it's fine for ranked mode of whatever your game is because it's expected, but is not good for pubs.
From random or more distant players was a much more common trend back in the day. Today, where most players are very unlikely to accept invites from people they don't recognize, accepting an invite to a Halo 3 lobby or...
Oh, that's bait. Do not enter in that chat. What? I'm the Tucker wants you to play Halo Reach. Oh, depending, because I've gotten these a couple times back in the day. I've been randomly just invited to like a party chat where I go in and the dude just like shit talks me for like a couple seconds, and then I'm just like, I'm out. I'm like, okay, this is how it is. Don't accept invites from strangers anymore. What a surprise.
or even a COD lobby was almost common practice during these older times. You just accept the invite and see what was there. Maybe it was a fun customs lobby, or maybe it was people just playing pubs. But regardless, you just roll the dice and see what you were going to get yourself into. The act of getting messages was also a much different experience.
Jedi 2-0'd the Sith Lords. Vader raged on his own host and destroyed the Empire. Nuff and Luke joined Jedi. Stacked roster. Say, what? What? Yeah, if people sent you messages, they were usually, at least in my own experience, it was usually like negative messages. Again, going back to trash talking and shit talking. That's all I ever got. I don't even remember if I ever got like one positive message with the like all this like Xbox stuff.
If you were around, you'll remember M2AF, which was literally a message you would send to your entire friends list, or
message to all friends. Okay, I never got this type of message because whenever I worked at CC's Pizza, almost everybody I wanted to play with, or everybody that worked there, played Call of Duty. And whenever we got off shift, we would just play Call of Duty. That was it.
Message to all friends. Maybe it was because you changed your gamer tag, or you were hosting tryouts for your clan, or maybe you were just going on vacation for a couple weeks and wanted to let everyone on your friends list know. Literally, you would get these messages on a regular basis about a whole slew of different things. But it wasn't just the friends list and the chats that were so different back in the day. The simple act of finding matches these days is so much different. While during this time, many games did have matchmaking similar to the games today, a lot of games also had persistent lobbies or had features that made it a lot easier to re-queue with the same players that you just played with.
Yeah. And I think, wasn't it Xbox? Xbox had like a recent players menu that you could go into, and if you liked a player, you could, go back I think it went back to like 150 players or whatever. And you could just invite that person in like the recent player list.
This was on top of games that still utilize server browsers or lobby browsers, so all in all, you were much more likely to play multiple games with these same people on a game-to-game basis. Compare this to today, where basically every time you queue into a match, it's going to be a completely fresh lobby of new faces.
Yes and no. I would argue that depending on your game, all right, so like, at least for like FPSs, a lot of FPSs divide up lobbies into like regions, like server regions, just so that players can get the best experience with like the most little amount of like I don't know, lag or whatever. So there would be like, let's say there's like a North Carolina server region, and you're in that one, and now you'll be in like a Texas server region. You'll be in like a Florida server region or like a California server region. So in that sense, you'll see the same players.
Other than your existing party that you may have queued into the lobby with. Very few new games today maintain lobbies between games anymore, or use things like a server browser outside of some exceptions like the server browser in Halo. So this means you're no longer playing multiple games with the same people. So in the past, while you might chill in the same COD lobby for hours as people came and went, and you'd still be there playing with and against the same core group of people if they happen to stay in that lobby, now besides your own party, it's going to be new people basically every single game.
Yeah.
And what this does is it gives you even less of an incentive to bother talking to people in game chat.
Yep, because either way, if you shit on people, or if people shit on you in the game, you're just going to get a new lobby. So it gives the feeling of like people are just like replaceable. I mean, in whatever game you choose, there's going to be X amount of players on. And, it's the same thing with World of Warcraft and like looking for group. When that thing came into play, it was like you didn't have to spend time making a group. You didn't have to spend time talking to people. It's just enter the queue and then just give me a tank, a healer, and DPS as fast as you can. I don't care who it is. We'll carry them, whatever. Yeah. So it's like people are just, I don't know, like a resource or whatever, with like all these like instant queues and things like this.
Because in reality, they're all going to be gone after that game anyways.
Yeah.
Many games have made these changes for convenience, or in some cases probably some back-end statistic that shows that these changes and features lead to things like higher player retention, and this seems to be what developers are prioritizing. But this is at the...
Yep. Higher player retention, because the longer a player plays a game, the more likely it is that they will spend money on the game, through the in-game store with microtransactions, whatever. All right. You want to give the player the feeling of pride and accomplishment. If they lose a bunch of matches in a row, they're probably just going to dip out. Whereas if they win one and then lose one and then win one and then maybe lose two and then win another one, that's going to lead to a higher player retention.
Cost of that feeling of camaraderie and social interaction that many of these multiplayer games once had. I mentioned skill-based matchmaking earlier, but it isn't skill-based matchmaking alone that makes these games feel so sweaty and try-hard at times. Some of this comes down to the fact that there's literally nothing else to play for. You aren't playing to make friends or hang out with people on a server for hours. Instead, you are just playing to improve your stats, grind through a battle pass, or whatever other challenges you might be trying to finish. And it's that experience that's going to get increasingly sweaty as players are all off in their own party chats or just playing by themselves. Unfortunately, there really seems like nothing will change this trend of online games getting increasingly lonely. As companies prioritize things like money and whatever other analytics lead them to make more money, that feeling of community in these games is getting lost. At the end of the day, we're just another number to fill up a server to make sure the gears of these games keep turning and the microtransactions keep getting bought. Recently, we had a glimpse into the past of what that fun camaraderie could be, and that was with proximity chat in Warzone 2.
I don't want to shoot you guys on accident.
I'm gonna go heartbeat him.
Oh, he's right here. He's to the
I guess Warzone 2 did have proximity chat. I had no idea. I don't know. I'm gonna take a stab at it and say he's cherry picking a clip where people are actually having like, I don't know, like a legitimate conversation. Whereas if you're just like a solo player and you're always doing solos or whatever, or like solo fills, I would imagine it's just as toxic as you could imagine.
To the left. He's to the
Where?
left. To the left, down the hill, to the left.
Oh, yeah.
170. 170.
Shoot him! I got a sniper rifle.
This showed some of the fun sides of the interactions you can have when you have a lot of people using in-game voice chat.
Now show some unfun interactions, which I would argue make up the majority of your playtime. All right, go ahead.
And these used to be on a regular
Oh, you don't got any. Oh, okay.
basis. You'd have interactions like this with your teammates or enemies in almost every single game. Now, they might not be exactly like the Warzone interactions, because not every game in the past had proximity chat, but things like lobby chat pre and post game, and having a lot more players in the game chat itself during the game led to a lot of the same style of interactions that you were seeing from these proximity chat clips. But unfortunately, even these proximity chat clips seem to be losing their novelty as more and more people are just turning it off in favor of just sitting in a party chat or a Discord with their friends or party members.
Yeah, or if not even that, like there are people that play like Warzone that just play by themselves and they don't want to have to deal with other toxic players in proximity chat. So that's another reason to just turn it off. All right. So that's one right there.
In this video, I mostly focused,
And also I would argue there's more people, now than there were back then, trying to get famous playing video games.
on what you could kind of sum up as the standard AAA title multiplayer experience, especially when you're playing on console. However, this feeling of isolation is spread almost industry-wide, especially in AAA gaming. Even MMOs like World of Warcraft have gone down the route of convenience and quality of life features over the social interaction that they heavily leaned on in the past, which is why modern WoW can almost be played as a single player game until maybe the very, very end game when you might want to find a proper raid group. Besides that, things like the Dungeon Finder, the Raid Finder, and the Group Finder can get you by just fine for any cases when you do need another player. And you can run through all these different scenarios with basically little interaction or none between the players that it's going to throw you into a party with. Just queue up for a dungeon or a raid, run around and throw some abilities until you complete it, and then go on your separate way. Very, very similar to what it feels like to play a game of Fortnite or Apex in the modern day. Queue into the game, run around, pick up some loot, shoot some things, and end the game, and then go on your separate way and never see or talk to those players that you played with again. I don't really believe there is much we can even do at this point. Many of these same features that take away from the community aspect of online gaming are also convenient quality of life changes, so it would basically be a regression in technology if we were to go back on some of these aspects. However,
yeah, but there's a lot of other, I don't know, maybe, so you say like regression in technology if a game came out with this, like modern like technology or whatever, like a lot of people just record their own gameplay, and you have things like all the social medias to like communicate through like your own community in your game. All right, you don't have to be so isolated. If you're isolated, and it's probably because you're choosing to isolate yourself as opposed to like being a part of the community of your game.
However, we have seen in the case of World of Warcraft with something like classic World of Warcraft that there is a huge,
and also he didn't touch on a lot of like gamers that grew up playing Halo, they're just older and they have different priorities in life. So that's another factor.
Market for these more heavily social interaction and community driven games. So online gaming is still a great outlet for many, and while things like Discord are very convenient, I do have to sit sometimes and relish how online gaming felt during those lesser polished times.
Yeah, what's good, guys?
Yeah, so this was a great
up
this was a great video. I really like this, and it just highlights a point that, you know, exactly what he wanted to highlight. You know, modern gaming is lonely, and it's only going to keep staying like that. It's not going to get more inclusive. It's only going to get more exclusive. Yeah. So let's see, what's this? I'm still here gaming online from this era. This video hits deep as all the friends and people I met are long gone on my friends list. Yeah. A lot of the friends I grew up with, like playing all the games back then, like I just don't talk to anymore. It's not like you just grow apart, I guess, you know? Everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone's trying to being busy, trying to be an adult. Everyone's trying to figure out their shit in life, you know? It is what it is. All composed of a huge graveyard of not online. Yeah, I would say most people's friends list for anything, you know, not just consoles, even Steam. Most people's friends are just not online. It was amazing how social and engaging it started back in 2004 when Halo 2 hit for Xbox Live. Yeah, I probably play more multiplayer games now than I did back in the late 2000s. But now the social interaction is gone. Nobody wears mics. If they do, they're in private chats. But it seems like the idea of grouping up with randoms in the modern era is practically mute at this point, and it's sad. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Seldom will you have... Well, he's using a lot of like FPS clips, and FPS is like a very skill-based genre of video games. But I would, you know, it's also most multiplayer games are FPS games, I would say, or at least popular ones. Like, so yeah. So because of that, it's like when you have like such a skillful genre like FPS, it's like you already divide yourself up into things like, you know, like with things like skill-based matchmaking. I don't want to play with a bronze person. I don't want to play with a silver person. I don't want to play with a gold person. I want to play with plat. I want to play with diamond. I want to play with immortal or whatever. All right. So I don't know. It is what it is, man. But, you know, good video. I want to see some more. So that's about it. All right. See ya.